Education. It has now often become a battleground between the left and the right, between opposition-ruled states and BJP-ruled states, in a big move against the central government's decision to remove several chapters from NCERT textbooks. The Kerala government has decided to bring back some of these omitted chapters. It has brought back the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, which was done by Nathuram Godse, and his connections with right-wing organizations are well known. That's been brought back into history textbooks in Kerala. So has the question of the 2002 Gujarat riots, when Mr. Modi was Chief Minister of Gujarat. That too is part of the portions that have been brought back by the Kerala State Board into state board textbooks against what the NCERT had recommended about the dropping of these provisions. Now, the revised school curriculum will be made available for Kerala students after Onam, which is later this month. So from September, the term that begins from September, they will have access to these new textbooks. The left claims that it is only simply reinstating history for the youth of Kerala, which has been backed by the Congress as well. Of course, the BJP in Kerala has vehemently opposed the re-inclusion of all these omitted parts in history textbooks. The BJP has called this a diversionary tactic from the corruption allegations that the Chief Minister and his family were facing in recent days.
ഒഴിവാക്കപ്പെട്ടവരുടെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട പാഠഭാഗങ്ങളുണ്ട്. ചരിത്രം, എക്കണോമിക്സ്, സയൻസ് തുടങ്ങിയവയുള്ള അതിൻ്റെ ഡീറ്റെയിൽസ് എത്തിക്കാൻ പോകുന്നില്ല. അത് ഒഴിവാക്കപ്പെട്ട പാഠഭാഗങ്ങളുണ്ട്. രാഷ്ട്രപിതാ മഹാത്മാഗാന്ധിയുടെ വാദത്തെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം കാര്യമുണ്ട്. പണ്ഡിറ്റ് ജവഹർലാൽ നെഹ്റുവിൻ്റെ ഭരണകാലത്തെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളമുണ്ട്. ഗുജറാത്ത് കലാപം, അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയുള്ള കുറേ വിഷയങ്ങൾ ഒഴിവാക്കപ്പെട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്.
NCERT took the position that as far as they were concerned, it was about making life easier for the children because many had extra work to catch up on after the COVID pandemic. The problem is, unfortunately, that the deletions seem to follow an unfortunate pattern where certain subjects were favored for deletion and other matters were retained or even expanded.
जिनका परिवार न सिर्फ वंशवाद कर रहा है बल्कि प्रशासन में सक्रिय हस्तक्षेप करते हुए भ्रष्टाचार में लिप्त होने के आरोप से बच नहीं रहा, संभवतः उससे ध्यान बटाने के लिए एक विवादास्पद मुद्दे को ला रहे हैं.
All right, I want to go across to our guests who are joining us. Anil K. Antony is National Secretary of the BJP. Vivek Srivastav of the CPIM will also be joining us. Anil Antony, let me start with you. The claim by the left and by the Congress also in Kerala is these were omitted portions. These are part of history textbooks and have been taught to our children for generations together. And it's the BJP and the NCERT under this dispensation which deliberately dropped those portions, whether it was the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, whether it was the 2002 Gujarat riots. Thereby, you are the ones who are playing with history and history textbooks and with the knowledge being imparted to our children. The left government in Kerala is simply bringing back history as it was taught.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob, for having me in the show. So each passing day, it is becoming more and more clear that there is not much difference between the left front and the Congress in Kerala as far as any national issue is concerned. Ever since independence, this is something which we need to note, and that is ever since independence, there had been this large set of left-leaning as well as Marxist historians and academics who over a period of time started dominating and monopolizing every single academic institution and university across the country, and they started teaching lessons which were very aligned to which were very biased and aligned to certain ideological leanings. And even before that, you had the 200 years of colonization, where again the British were also doing the same thing. And the one thing that was common between both of them was that both these, the British and these leftist Marxist historians, they started putting India's cultural civilizational culture, heritage and values under the carpet so that they can divide our communities, our people based on religion, and they could divide and rule. They can, let's say, take forward their rule. So this was happening for a long time. Now in 2014, when Narendra Modi ji became the Prime Minister, along with the unprecedented growth that this country started having, something else that started happening is that we started reclaiming our old cultural past. We started reclaiming our civilizational culture, heritage, values, and that started showing in many areas, including education, including changes in NCERT, where at one side you have the national education policy, which is actually one of the most advanced curriculum anywhere in the world, where we are teaching our students everything from artificial intelligence to machine learning to everything that is making our students fit for the fourth industrial revolution and taking this country forward, aligned to our Prime Minister's vision of transforming this country into a developed country by 2047. Let me just come. It's just two more sentences. So at one side you have this, and then we are taking all our cultural and civilizational heritage. Also, we are amalgamating modernity as well as our heritage, and we are taking forward. And then these usual suspects, again the leftists mainly in Kerala, for them this is not at all agreeable, because this is actually tearing apart a narration which they have been trying to build for the last 75 years. And this is where all this intolerance is coming from. And it is not at all surprising that, let's say, the communists in Kerala are doing what they are doing, especially...
So, let me go across to Vivek Srivastav of the CPIM, who's also joining us. Vivek Srivastav, the point is that if individual states, and in this case opposition-ruled states like Kerala, are going to teach a different history to the students there, then you'll have this very odd situation where students coming from certain states will have one set of historical facts being taught to them, and another set of students will have something else being taught to them. So a student from Delhi and a student from Kerala, or a student from Mumbai and a student from Bangalore will be learning two histories. I mean, we cannot have that, which is why you had an NEP, you had a national education policy. So Vivek Srivastav, what you're essentially doing is you're teaching, or you're at least paving the way to teach two histories.
You see, yes, you are right, and I do agree with you that this is something that is, I mean, a very different kind of a model that we are having. But have you ever thought of it that for the last 75 years, why did controversy like this never ever happened? You had VP Singh, a non-Congress government, you had Congress governments, you had Deve Gowda, you had Atal Bihari Vajpayee coming in the middle, you know, we had a left-supported UPA government at the center. However, I mean, such a wide debate, such a lot of discrepancy, such a lot of controversy, it never happened. It never happened because there was a common consensus of what this country is, what is the idea of India, what is the history, and what should be taught. Minor discrepancies here and there is a different issue. Now this government is trying to be something different. The reason is they are trying to rewrite history. They are trying to create something which was not there. The RSS never fought for the freedom of this country. 1925 they were formed. Now they are trying to cook up their own heroes who don't exist. You have to understand that Akbar was as much an Indian as anyone else. So was Shah Jahan, so was Jahangir. They had Hindu wives, they had Hindu mothers. There was an amalgamation of cultures which they are not willing to accept. So Akbar has to be shown in a bad light. Bahadur Shah Zafar did fight for the independence of this country against the British. He was the unifying point. It has to be recognized. Taj Mahal is a structure which was a wonder in the world. You have to recognize it. So what is Sanskriti, what is culture has to be seen in the right realistic perspective.
No.
We studied in our course
once again, Mr. Srivastav, the contention that the right has, and I don't know how much you heard of what Anil Antony was saying before you joined us. The contention that the right has had is that history over the last 75 years since our independence has been taught from a certain prism or a certain point of view which is left-oriented, Marxist historians and so on. But history is not always seen from and cannot be seen from an ideological prism or an ideological point of view. History is history. You have to teach it as facts. And you can't have, like I said, history students in Kerala are learning about one thing and history students in Delhi learning the exact opposite. So what the right is saying is they are only correcting a historic tilt that was there for the last 70 years, where history was always taught from a left-leaning / Marxist perspective.
No. I mean, this is not the right thing to say. There was a broader consensus. Maulana Azad was the first education minister of this country. He was not a leftist. He belonged to the Congress party. And as I told you, there were many other governments that came, including Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government. But there was never a debate like this that ever happened. I mean, the point is you are not willing to understand, I mean, by you I mean the RSS and the BJP and the Sangh Parivar, they are not willing to accept that other cultures, other religions today are very much a part of India. They have contributed historically, they came, they are still calling Akbar an invader, they are still calling Shah Jahan an invader, they are still calling Jahangir an invader. So, I mean, this is not the right history. Yes, we had a very rich Hindu history. We had a very rich Buddhist history. We had a very rich Jain history. We also have a very rich Muslim history which contributed. We also had a very good Christian history which contributed over here. We had you had the Portuguese fight. We had the Portuguese Revolution where we finally freed the country in 1960s. So I mean everything has to be amalgamated, and that is how it was.
Okay.
Now if you are trying to say that no, there is only a Hindu perspective of history, only a Hindu history, only the Hindu Rajas were great, only the Hindus have contributed.
Anil Antony,
I mean,
respond to that.
Things.
I mean, Mughal history is Mughal history. It's part of this country. I mean,
So-
when you view it from your prism, you're also coloring the history from a political/ideological point of view, which is exactly what you accuse the Marxist historians of doing. Anil Antony.
Thank you. So I was listening to Srivastavaji, and this is exactly what I said when I initially made my points, and that is, let's say, when for a long time we saw history, it was always through particular lenses. There used to be a gentleman called Mr. James Mill, who was a Britishman who, when he wrote India's history, he had not even visited the country more than once or twice, and then he wrote a large book on Indian history, where he divided Indian society into Hindus and Muslims. That is how he understood things. And right now you look at things, if you look at how all these leftists and Marxists and these, let's say, people who are still clinging on to the old beliefs in history, talk about history, you are still following the same thought processes. And that is, in their views, let's say you keep stressing on Mughals. There is nothing, we are not saying that Mughals were not a part of Indian history in any manner, but we are a very complex society where during different points of time, you had empires like the Mauryas and Guptas and Chalukyas, and this is a country which is a civilizational country with almost thousands of years of our heritage and culture. This is a country where we have tremendous depth in many aspects, and sadly, at this moment, the alternative of what we are standing for is trying to make it into a binary where they want to only see our let's say they talk about pluralism, but finally when you talk about pluralism, it is, let's say, a binary of you have the Mughals and the non-Mughals, or you have the Muslims and the Hindus, and this is the only way they are able to see things. This is the only way they are able to perceive things. Right now, there is a lot of criticism coming from different corners when people are saying, okay, in 75 years this hasn't happened, in 75 years there is a consensus, etc., etc. But at some point, our friends in the opposition needs to understand that things have reached an inflection point in 2014, where right now, in 2014, that is why I stressed in my first argument also, when in 2014, when Narendra Modi ji became the Prime Minister, along with the unprecedented growth that our country is having, we are also once again reclaiming a lot of our cultural heritage, our values, and our culture, which had been brushed under the carpet for 75 years and another 200 years before by the British and by these leftist Marxist historians who actually, yes.
So Vivek Srivastav, I think Anil Antony has a point in as much as, you say that there was a consensus. I don't know what this consensus was, but the fact is that consensus seemed to be between, the Congress's ideological point of view, the left ideological point of view. Even though Mr. Vajpayee ran 6 years of an NDA government, that was a coalition government. It was not, Mr. Modi's government is the first single party majority right of center government that India has seen. And therefore, they are not buying into this consensus. They are asking, why should there be this consensus when it comes to teaching history? Because if it's being taught from a left ideological point of view, then the right will also say that, you need to teach it from a right ideological point of view.
History is history and there is no right or left in it. It has to be factual. So the facts are that we did have Hindu kingdoms, we did have the Rajputana even at the time of the Mughals. It is taught to us. We are taught about Raja Man Singh, we are taught about Maharana Pratap, we are taught about Akbar, we are taught about Chanakya, we have been taught about Chandragupta Maurya, we have been taught about Ashoka. I mean, it has been a very holistic history. It is not as if other cultures, other religions, other kings have not been taught. It has all been in a balance. But you have to realize that if in a certain period, certain kings are more important, they are more powerful, then it has to be said so. I cannot, polish it off. Secondly, what kind of a history are they trying to write? Nothing about Gandhi's assassination, nothing about Nathuram Godse, nothing about the Gujarat riots in 2002. Why should the history be selective?
No, but
why is this,
Mr. Srivastava,
is this being
2002 Gujarat riots.
Sardar Patel was responsible for banning the RSS at the time.
But that's not the only riot that happened in this country. There was Bhagalpur before that. There was 1984 anti-Sikh riots before that.
Yes, why not?
Our history textbooks outlining every riot that happened in this country? No. Right?
No,
Again, you are selectively picking and choosing what suits a particular narrative.
No, I am not selective. If the aim of the right wing is to somehow wash off the hands of Gandhi's assassination, wash off the fact that Sardar Patel banned the RSS, wash off so many facts about Savarkar, and try to represent it in a different way, try to show down everything that is Mughal and Muslim and Islamic, including the architecture and the rule and the land reform movement.
All right.
That is the problem.
We've got to leave it at that. We'll see how this story plays out. Like I said, Kerala has now, through its state education board, reverted back some of the portions that were removed from the NCERT textbooks. For the state board textbooks, they have now gone back to some of those deleted portions. But I suspect this is more politics and less history, and I suspect that now that Kerala has done this, you will see other state boards, other state governments, opposition-run state governments doing the same in history textbooks and history lessons being taught in those respective states. And that, unfortunately, is just political, and it has nothing to do with history. So that's a wrap. Thanks very much for tuning in. We'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. In the meanwhile, from me, Zaka Jacob, the rest of the Brass Tacks team, and everybody here at CNN News 18, a very, very happy and prosperous Independence Day. We wish 1.3 billion Indians here and around the world a very, very happy Independence Day. We have come quite a distance in these last 75 plus years, but we have a fair distance to go as well. So thank you very much for tuning into our program. Once again, happy Independence Day. We'll catch you again on Wednesday. Good night.